I guess.
Read it. I'm trying to get money before the
Live mayor's office.
just the length of the.
Good evening and welcome to the North Dumfries November 10th council meeting. Members of the public were provided with the following methods to watch or participate in this open meeting. Attend in person at the North Dumfries Community Complex. Attend electronically via Zoom to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. You can watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township's YouTube page. Submitted written comments to the clerk's division were provided to council members and will form part of the public record. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank everyone for joining us this evening. We appreciate your participation. As we come together to serve the community, I ask that we create a welcoming and positive environment for everyone that includes respect, that we listen to each other with care, speak thoughtfully, and engage kindly with one another. Kindness, that we treat everyone, council, public, and staff with respect and understanding. Inclusion, that we embrace diverse perspectives and respect each other's opinions. Together, we can make this meeting space one where respect, kindness, and inclusion are at the heart of everything we do. Behavior that's disrespectful, disruptive, aggressive, or intimidating will result in those individuals being asked to leave the meeting. I'd like now to call the meeting to order and have approval of the agenda. Councilor Williman, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Ossner, that council adopt the November 10th, 2025 council meeting agenda as presented. The following addendum: 1, add correspondence received for item 11.2.1, report number rec 30-2025, follow up on outdoor pickleball courts and nets. And 2, add memorandum from Karen Winters, Director of Leisure and Community Services, for item 11.22, report number rec 33-2025, donation from Air Paris Band for purchase of new chairs at the Air Community Center.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'd now like to do the Indigenous acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. And there's been so much value out there from the Indigenous people over the last few years. They are a kind and respectful organization. They have welcomed us from the beginning of time when we first came to Canada. They embraced us and our culture, and we turned from that. And now we're turning back, which is the right thing to do. I asked once what reconciliation was, and Ava Thiel, Irene Aidney, did a story on Buddy Miracle. Buddy Miracle was the first Indigenous NHL hockey player. But he didn't show up until he was 16 years of age, and everybody asked, well, where was he all these? His parents were hiding him and his brothers and sisters to protect them from the residential schools. So then he came and became an NHL hockey player. And so Miss Agnew wrote to the NHL, wrote to New York, and they verified what he was because an Indigenous baby, and sent 2 jerseys up. And at Cinderise here, I presented Chief Hill with about a miracle church, and she said, this is what reconciliation is. It's respecting our accomplishments and recognizing that we have contributed. It's a non-threatening thing. Reconciliation is non-threatening. It is us saying, yes, we respect who you are and what you are, and I think we can do great things together. So let's stop and reflect on that. Thank you. Is there any disclosure between interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none. Adoption of the council minutes, please. Councilor Williams.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Williman, that council approve the following meeting minutes. Council meeting minutes dated October 27, 2025, and public planning meeting minutes dated October 28, 2025.
All those in favor? Carry. Thank you. Presentations, Adam Fraser and Kevin Marshall with the Regional Waterloo regarding the GRT Township Transit Strategy Update. Gentlemen.
Hello, Mayor Boxton and members of North Dumfries Council. On behalf of GRT, thank you for the opportunity to return today and provide an update on how we are working together to help make transit the easy first choice for more communities across Waterloo region. I'm Kevin Marshall, the manager for transit development. And a quick personal note, over the years, I've really enjoyed coming to Ayr and exploring the area on motorcycle. And I'm really excited that maybe the next time I do so with some of my friends and family, it might be by transit. I'm joined today by Adam Fraser, our principal planner leading our township transit strategy. Over the next 10 minutes, we will walk you through a quick status update and an exciting opportunity that will help us introduce township transit services for North Dumfries in 2026 and beyond. Our presentation will recap the GRT business plan's township transit strategy, highlight what we heard from residents through our business plan outreach, and introduce the Ontario Transit Investment Fund opportunity, our proposal for new service that we've refined with North Dumfries staff, and next steps for our application. Just before we go into depth, I did want to share that we're excited to say that our GRT business plan was approved by Regional Council on June 25th, 2025. The business plan is made up of our conventional bus and train plans, or our core service network, as well as a specialized transit plan, and most importantly for today, our township transit strategy. So since approval of the plan, GRT has been able to source funding opportunities to help accelerate township transit services. We're excited to share that the capital funding we received through Canada's Rural Transit Solutions Fund has been secured and will help us improve stop infrastructure at key locations where township transit exists today and where we hope it'll exist tomorrow. We'll be spending most of today talking about GRT's upcoming application to the Ontario Transit Investment Fund. This is a unique multi-year operating funding program that helps introduce and improve transit service investment in each township, which is our key priority of our business plan. I'll hand it over to Adam, who will walk you through in detail what we hope to offer in North Dumfries with a successful OTIP application. You go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Foxton, member of the council. Our township transit strategy produced a map shown on screen here, our future township transit network at maturity, which includes two types of transit service. These are fixed route services, where vehicles follow a consistent schedule and route every operating day. And this is what most of GRT services are right now. And on-demand transit, which is a request-driven service that does not run on a fixed route or schedule. Trips are booked via an app or a phone call or a web portal. On-demand transit can be a really great, very cost-effective way to find service coverage for areas of lower density. Looking at this map, you'll see both these types of services are proposed for North Dumfries, including a fixed route approaching Ayr via Wrigley Road. We know this is not the most intuitive routing, and we have a reason for this, so we'll get to that more in the presentation. But today we'll be presenting a revised routing based on continued feedback and collaboration with township staff, which we're grateful for, as we're trying to recognize each township's unique transit needs. At maturity, a key goal is to provide transit service of some form to all of Waterloo region to better access essential services and employment opportunities. There were themes we heard through our township transit strategy that I want to touch on here. Really, where folks are looking to get to, what times of day, is it weekday, is it weekend? We heard stories of how transit would impact. We heard from folks without reliable transportation that really want to get to areas within North Dumfries, into Kitchener, into Cambridge for essential services and potential job opportunities. We heard from a major employer in the 401 industrial area that struggles to hire staff. And then when they do find someone to hire, there are cases where they don't have reliable transport to actually get to work. So they went from an eligible candidate to ineligible for that reason. We heard from students and young adults looking to stay locally to attend post-secondary education, stay at home, save costs, maybe share a car or maybe buy their own car, which is expensive. And we work closely with the post-secondary institutions in our region to have unlimited transit built into tuition. We spoke with families with teenage kids looking to get part-time jobs or engaged in extracurricular activities that we know parents taxi their kids around a lot. And transit may not solve all of those trips, but if it can solve some of those, it gives back time to parents, which we know is valuable. And we also heard from folks about service costs, concerns about what the impacts would be to property taxes. And for some, we know that they would never necessarily use transit. We understand that. However, we did hear from folks really excited about transit and interested from a cost perspective, whether they'd be paying the same fare as a rural resident versus an urban. And we can say clearly that the fares are same region-wide, one fare, one system. Now, these last few slides have kind of been to frame how GRT staff are approaching the Ontario Transit Investment Fund, or OTIF. As Kevin mentioned, it's an unusual funding opportunity as it provides for operational funding for existing and new transit services. OTIF proposes to offers 50% of total multi-year project costs up to 5 years, with flexibility in how that 50% is averaged over the 5-year timeline. So the first year is a maximum support from OTIF is 80%, and the final year maximum support is 30%. So our recommendation is to submit a phased plan guided by the Township Transit Strategy to meet the funding principles: integrated, coordinated, and sustainable. Phase 1 for fall 2026, we're looking to launch transit service in North Dumfries. So this is a revised route that connects Ayr to Conestoga Dunes Station, traveling along Northumberland Street rather than Wrigley Road. This route connects nearly all of Ayr together and serves about 60% of North Dumfries population. From end to end travel time, we're looking around 35 to 40 minutes with a 90-minute frequency, starting with weekday AM and PM sort of peak services. That's when most people tend to be traveling, like I say, typical 9 to 5 work. And this would be accomplished with one vehicle. Complementing the fixed route would be an all North Dumfries on-demand zone to serve the entire township, with transfer points along this fixed route and also into Cambridge and Kitchener. Together, we see these as the best value package, getting all township coverage while driving higher ridership along the fixed route. Now, with this revised routing, we wanted to share some trade-offs here. Our township transit strategy routing was designed to avoid at-grade crossing of the CP-CK tracks in Ayr, knowing that rail activity causes delays at different times of the day. And we've heard a number of folks sharing experiences and opinions on whether, how this may or may not affect transit service if we were to cross the tracks. And I mean, I've spoken directly with someone at CP-CK on the subject, and it offered no clarity on the timing, frequency, or length of delays. And us transit planners don't like risk. Unpredictable service delays make for an unreliable service, which threatens our ability to establish and grow ridership. And it's ultimately not a good customer experience. We don't know the scale, small or large. We don't know the impact of crossing the tracks. However, the benefits of this revised routing are clear to us. So we're willing to try and adapt if we need, despite these known risks. Now, looking at budget for 2026, 2027, we see a fairly marginal service cost in year one. This is due to service launching in the fall, which is pretty typical for GRT to make service, new service or service changes. So it's about 4 months worth of service at 80% support from OTIF. Year 2 captures a full year of our service proposal with a modest step down in OTIF support. On an annual cost per household basis, we're looking at around $2 per household for year 1 and about $6 per household for year 2, and that would be part of the regional tax levy. Phase 2, slated for spring 2027, will be looking to complete a commingling needs assessment. Commingling means using the same vehicles and drivers to serve both specialized and conventional on-demand transit customers instead of serving them with separate fleets. GRT is in the process of securing a technology vendor to modernize specialized transit service and also prepare for the ability to commingle. Once the specialized transit modernization work is complete, we'll be looking to leverage this vendor to help us look at the feasibility of commingling and inform an operational plan for serving conventional and specialized customers together and unlock potential savings. Phase 3 of our proposal is to, and this is for 2028, we're looking to expand service with on-demand. For North Dumfries, this would mean adding a service zone and vehicle in the eastern portion of the township. The intent here is to improve vehicle availability and response time for on-demand service. Now, an OTIF application will seek maximum funds, assuming no commingling, which is consistent with our township transit strategy. However, we do anticipate a commingling needs assessment will provide clarity on the opportunity and potential savings of a commingled service rather than separate services. This is something we'll coordinate with the province in terms of how OTIF funding is used, and obviously coordinate with our township stakeholders. So our intention is to come back through our phasing and with updates, assuming recent funding. And looking at 5-year costs with our OTIF proposal, we can see in phase 1, the service hours bump up in the first few years and then plateau, while new costs start low and progressively increase as OTIF support decreases. Phase 3 costs are here as well. And again, because our proposal is assuming a conventional on-demand rather than a commingled one, we're treating these as maximum costs until our phase 2 study helps uncover the potential saving. We're also showing year 6. This is the first year after OTIF support ends. Though our forecasting of costs can get less reliable the further in the future we look, we can share that the average cost per household in year 6 is in the range of $40 to $50 per year, or under $4 per month per household. And that's just for phase 1. That's the one we have a bit more of a grasp on in terms of costs. And as stated earlier, we are committed to coming back as we work through our phasing program. This is just a timeline summary for our OTIF. So right now we are working on our application proposal and presenting to each area municipal council, and then looking to next month to submit our application following the region's plan and budget process. And then we anticipate to hear about funding next spring, and then really kind of set into motion the phases that we've just shared this evening. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass it back to Kevin.
Thanks, Adam. I'll be very quick to wrap up. Just wanted to appreciate the time we've had in collaboration over the last few months, actually the last few years, pardon me, on our GRT business plan development, which has culminated in this great opportunity. Thank you to Township Council, the public, and listeners tonight, as well as staff who are with us tonight from the Township. As Adam mentioned, our next big milestones here, we are meeting with every Township. Over the next month to share a similar update to what we presented tonight. We will be then bringing forward a report to Regional Council with a very similar presentation to this and information with it, looking for final endorsement of our OTIF application. And immediately following the plan and budget process of the Regional Waterloo, which is slated for December 16th for final approval, we plan to submit our OTIF application to the province of Ontario. Adam mentioned this as well. We anticipate very hopeful, a positive announcement from the province in the springtime, which will give us an opportunity to come back to this council to present you with an update, as well as a plan for service launch. And we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councilors, questions? Councilor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. I'm just trying to understand slide 12, when it talks about the North Dumfries cost. Is this something that is still will be through the regional levy? And if so, is this going to be like a special levy that's specific to North Dumfries residents, or is this just going to be part of the whole parcel that we get?
Mayor, the short answer is yes, this is through the regional tax portion of the levy. I'd have to take it back to double check what we do with our partners at Woolwich and Wilmot, but my understanding is we treat the what we call conventional services in the rural townships as a separate line, specifically called that in as well too. So we would have it distinct from the other via line item. Specifically.
Area rate.
There we go. Yes, and pardon me. And more specifically, it's area rated. So the costs that was presented are exactly what's being delivered within the township boundaries for the operation services. So we do that for each meeting. But to your point, it would come out as a distinct item for our service delivery.
Councilor.
Madam Mayor, through you, I know the focus tonight is on this OTIF funding, and that's helping us deal with the cost of this, but I still look at this overall proposal as being very flawed. The route they propose makes no sense to me whatsoever. You said that transit planners don't like risks. And yet over half this route is on the 401. And the 401 is very risky. Two reasons. One is always traffic jams on the 401. So the whole idea about not being stuck by a train does makes no sense when you're going to be on the 401 stuck in a giant traffic jam, which I'm stuck on the 401 all the time. The 401 is very dangerous. So I'm kind of concerned about why we're putting bus on the 401. The next thing is our sort of natural connection or Dumfries is to Cambridge and to Galt. So I'm just surprised that we were taking a bus up to Constable College when it looks from the map, I'm looking at the mapping presentation, it looks like it's a lot closer and a lot easier to go into the Ainsley terminal. So I don't understand why we're going to Constable College. I don't understand why we're not really running transit into Roseville, why we're not running transit into the north side of the 4197 Business Exchange. It just seems like a lot of things that we've been asking you for, things that I know that I've raised before when it comes to presentations, are just being ignored. And you're proposing this route that I think, quite honestly, looking at it, very few people are going to use. The times of the schedule, like doesn't match up with commuting time. So I'm not sure who's going to be using this bus service. So I'm just thinking to myself, even with the old tip funding, perhaps our initial exposure isn't that high, but eventually we'll be on board with the whole cost. And I just can't see the uptake. I can't see how people are going to be able to use this as presented without basically a massive rethinking of this route.
Mayor, we've put back up the slide for a second.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Fox. And there's a few questions that I'll try and unpack, and if you can go visit some of them, absolutely, so we can frame that. The first around use of the highway. This wouldn't be the first bus, proposed to be on a highway. We do have service between Kitchener and Cambridge.
That is best practice. Pardon me? That best practice for the bus on the 401.
I'm not sure. Yes, I'm not sure. Because it's a practice that we do have, it's something that we are open to considering. The question around service to Cambridge versus Kitchener, we do, in our initial process, we do have access to travel survey data where people are going to and connecting.
All our high school students go to Cambridge, right? I'm just saying, that's the thing, we all go to Cambridge.
Let me finish. Okay.
And in that data, we were able to see that the destinations, the origins destinations within North Dumfries to other areas within the region. It is true that it is pulled to Cambridge, it's pulled to Kitchener, it's pulled to other townships, and we know that it's not a clear, everyone's going to the same place. Part of that consideration is in our initial engagement with the community was options. Which option makes sense? And we heard from the community of which, and it wasn't a clear-cut winner of the routes. This connection to Constable with Dune becomes a compromise in a sense because it gives a touch point to transfer if folks are looking to go to Cambridge or further into Kitchener. A common destination that we saw was the 30 Mall, for instance. That this, with a transfer, there's multiple options to get to that at that point. The other consideration is that the on-demand service is the balance that for folks that are looking to get, for instance, I'll walk you through an idea here. Someone at Food, Land, and Air, and they want to get to Ainsley Terminal. They can take the fixed route to the 401 industrial area, where at this point we're looking at Flying J as a potential option. Though those options may change over time. To get onto an on-demand service to connect into Cambridge. That is an option, and I think the way that we know it exists in other services with an app, folks can optimize the system, will say what is the best way in terms of shortest time to get to where you're going. And it could include connection into the transfer or on demand into Cambridge. And it could either take folks to a terminal, or if the travel time is least, to be dropped to a transfer to a particular route as well.
Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, so you're saying that the system then will be underpinned by this on demand. So the actual fixed route system you're already saying it's not working. And the way it's going to work is you're going to rely on the on demand portion to basically make up for the gaps in the service. Is that correct?
They would be complementary. They work together. There's areas that we understand where there's the greatest potential for ridership where population and employment is, and that's where the fixed route has the greatest potential to provide for, and then on demand to complement that for areas where really the density and the forecasted demand may not be there to justify. And of course, as a starting point, this is where we can use data to inform how we may adapt to time where the demand exists to adapt.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. So just so I'm clear, if we have a fixed route from Air to Conestoga College or Portsmouth, sorry, we lose the on-demand, or the on-demand will be used, can be used by the people in Air? Like if this fixed route does not work for certain people, can they still use the on-demand to go to separate areas? And if so, is that something you guys will monitor to see the difference between the ridership on a fixed route versus the on-demand?
In short, through Mayor Buxton, yes, we can monitor. For instance, we have on-demand service now in Bread Block, and we can look at quite granular information of where folks are going to, how long they're in the vehicles for, how long they're waiting before they get picked up. So we would see that as well in a service that we're proposing, and also be able to see where folks are, say, transferring from a fixed route into on-demand to get to areas that the fixed route may not be providing for.
Councillor Austin.
And it works the other way around too. For example, the employers in North Dumfries, Air, surrounding, different areas. If there are employees that live in South Kitchener or Cambridge, rather, they would be on demand in as well. Like, does that, it covers both ways, right? Like it's not, you don't have to originate from North Dumfries out to the region and then back. It can also be from out the region into North Dumfries and back.
And if I, through Mayor Buxton, if I'm understanding the question properly, there are connection points that would allow folks who want to get into the township, they'd have to be at a connection point to offer the return trip. And that may be possible beyond just these connection points, and that's something that we want to use the technology vendor to really detail exactly how many options there would be for that connection, but it is intended to work both ways.
So, sorry.
Councillor
So the connection point is on the fixed route. The connection point is there's no on demand. Like, for example, let's say I'm Tim Hortons in Air and I need to bus people in from Conestoga College area to work. The on-demand system does not bring them from Conestoga College area into Air to work for their shift and then bring them home.
The Council Buxton, if the Mayor Buxton, the fixed route, because the Conestoga Junior campus and the fixed route is what provides connection, it would be the fixed route that I think would be the service that would be optimal for that connection.
Jump that too. I think through Mayor. Yeah, so the other on-demand points are kind of key station pieces. To your point, you could have a jumping off point from I think I mentioned the Ainsley terminal on the inverse, or some of what are other key connection points to connect back service to connect people into the township as well too. So it's not just a on-demand out, it's an on-demand in as well.
Councillor Austin.
Sorry, last part of the question.
No problem. No, this is
So then the statistics of employees or people wanting to come into the township versus employees or people wanting to move out of the township. If they're coming in to work, let's say, and then going home, do those statistics go to the region portion, or does that pile on to the traffic of the North Dumfries numbers?
Through Mayor Foxton, we area rate based on the geography and the service delivery piece. So any activity that's occurring, the operations for the services within the urban area would be area rated to the urban area component, but the service and operations within the townships would remain on the North Dumfries portion. So to your point, if one of the benefits of having this data is we have better understanding of origin and destination, so that can help inform, for example, a longer term additional fixed route or changes to your existing fixed route, and we would adjust the area rating accordingly for any of those costs. No
Last time, go ahead, Councillor.
It's brand new, right? This is how we're good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand how this is going to be monitored, because, for example, let's say we have 75 to 80 people coming in from South Kitchener or Cambridge into the township to work. They're being bused, however they're being bused, or fixed route or on demand or whatever. And then they're going back to Kitchener or Cambridge. And then we only have like 20 that are going from North Dumfries to Kitchener or Cambridge. Is that going to be total of 90 counted for North Dumfries, or the 70 is going to be counted from the traffic going from Kitchener to the township? That's not going to be counted as our traffic.
These are great questions, and I think when we look, and I'm not an expert in finance for how we area rate, I'll be upfront about that. But for as a comparison, if you look at area rating for a fixed route, we can say that 84% of the proposed fixed route here is within North Dumfries. So 84% of the cost would be for the tax levy, regional tax levy for that service, and the remaining would be on the urban. When it comes to the on-demand component, we're kind of in new territory of how that works. We can look at like vehicle, like road kilometers, we can look at population, we can look at even with the data, this is something that we'll have to be looking at our vendor, because they track the vehicles. We could even look at vehicle kilometers traveled within the urban versus rural to get a clear sense of the vehicle's use, how that comes down to passengers and revenue from that point. That is something that our finance team will have to work on to sort out exactly how that parses out, but I think we intended it to be fair as it can get when we're looking at data of this level. But I think that
just one more point on that. Thank you, Mayor, for entertaining us as well too. The other piece here is that when we look at the revenue the route brings in, that drives down the total net cost of the service too. So in that scenario, let's just say hypothetically everybody was boarding and only coming one way into Ayr or to North Dumfries, somehow found their own travel home, they would still be driving down that net cost that would be ultimately area rated. So that's the one benefit of being one system, one fare, is we're collectively able to drive down that cost as well too. So just another kind of key piece I want to flag.
Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. My question is, what kind of ridership would qualify success? Because when I'm looking at, again, to slide 12, the revenue statement, like I'm just looking at year 6, and the revenue, or even earlier, is $26,000. But the cost towards North Dumfries residents is almost $500,000, which is a lot of money for our small township. We're small, we're not a lot of people. So why is that? Would that be considered a successful route? Because that seems a little pricey.
Madam Mayor, there's a few ways to look at this. I mean, in an urban context, I think there's reason to look at, and in the transit world, we have revenue and cost, the ratio, revenue to cost ratio. So, in an urban setting, you might say, 30 to 40% might be considered good. In rural context, because really the population may not be there, it becomes more of a service and accessibility and equity conversation that the numbers don't look, on paper, they don't look quite as good. For instance, in our case, I believe we'd be looking at 6% RC. Now, again, on paper, that number might seem low when compared to urban, but the intent really for rural service isn't necessarily to make revenue. In transit is never really a revenue providing service. It is a trade-off. Providing a service that is around equity and accessibility and recovering some. If and this is where there's a balance as well of how many service hours, if we're running on weekends, all day, weekday, we control a lot of service hours to provide that access, but that is at a cost. And so there's a balance to be struck between how many service hours and availability and revenue. And that's where for rural services, we have to try and find that balance a bit better, because we know the population that be there to capture the high cost recovery and service.
Councillor Warman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. The other question I had was there any consideration given to just extending existing bus routes to those areas adjacent to North Dumfries? For example, if you look at Brampton or Clyde, they're very close to Cambridge, obviously. There's routes already in Cambridge. Could those routes not just be extended into those parts of North Dumfries? Similarly, you look at around Conestoga College where North Dumfries bumps up against Kitchener. Could we not just extend some of the Kitchener routes down into North Dumfries a little bit? Or coming out of west Cambridge into North Dumfries, like I don't see any of that happening. So you're gonna cover all those areas with on-demand service when there's literally a bus route just across the street. It's 5 minutes from the house. So like for Browns or whatever, like why was there no consideration given to just extending some of these existing routes, cutting down the on-demand, giving us better service in those outlying areas, creating that connectivity to Cambridge? Instead, we're treating North Dumfries in isolation instead of looking at North Dumfries as part of the whole region.
I'm just going to step in for a minute and say, this is a pilot for 5 years. They had to select something. They worked with CEO McNeely to find the best and most adequate to meet the demand. So that would be down the road of our successes. We will build upon the roots and we will do this probably cost anything. But this is the initial 5-year what's it called, temporary plan type thing, pilot project, that's right. So this is the pilot that will tell us the data, and I can tell you, the region can tell you exactly how many people are riding and at what times a day, because I get that data constantly, and last week we cut down 2 routes in Kitchener because they didn't meet the demand, and they thought that they would better switch things around. Some bus routes had dropped because there's practically no demand for it. And so it's a floating documentation. It's not this hard and fast. It changes quite quickly based upon the ridership. CEO McNeely.
So, Madam Mayor, if I could, maybe I can assist Adam and Kevin and some of the comments that they made in response to some of the questions. The reality is you've got a large geographic footprint. And it would be impractical to have buses go to all corners of the township. Costs would be prohibitive. I don't think you will see too many people on those buses going back to the urban centers. The on-demand is actually a fairly cost-effective way of providing opportunities for people in the outlying rural countryside to get to an existing route, or of equal importance, a route that might emerge in the future. So if I take a look at southeast Cambridge, if I look at southwest Kitchener, those 2 geographic areas are just in their early years of being developed. What is today being proposed? I can pretty well assure you will not be the plan 5 years out or 10 years out from that. So we're trying to establish the principles of transit culture as an alternative. To the earlier comments about accessibility and equity, this goes a long way to addressing that. It might provide an alternative where people may not have to have that second or third vehicle in their household to get to some of their trips, whether it be for work, school, or entertainment purposes. And it will be very fluid. Today, we have no data. We're largely using commuter modeling that's provided through Statistics Canada or the NTL. It is very, very precise unto itself. One thing that we will have, whether it be through the on-demand or the fixed rate system, is we will actually have in time truth data. And you will be able to recalibrate your model, adjust it accordingly. And as the surface transit system, conventional in South Kitchener, or Southwest Kitchener, and or Southeast Cambridge continue to mature and morph as more neighborhoods are brought into stream in those 2 urban areas, our plans can adjust accordingly as well. And you might see in the fullness of time, a conventional system dropping into a portion of North Dumfries, and then looping back up into urban Cambridge. This isn't a one-time plan. It is meant to be mobile, fluid in nature. The one advantage of the 5-year funding program by the provinces, it gives us a little bit of time to actually truth out some of our early assumptions, make adjustments, and not yet incur that full cost of the trial and error process. I do know that I have had this concern, and you know, I do recognize Adam and Kevin. They did put in year 6. Because it was important for council to see, in the event that there isn't a successor to OTIF, at present there isn't. What that cost would look like. I appreciate that is not accounted for the commingling between your current Mobility Plus service and what this on demand could look like. That number should come down. Can't tell you by what factor. But today, you've got quite a burden that you're paying for Mobility Plus, and you're truly not leveraging that cost. There will be efficiencies created by the commingling of both Mobility Plus and the on-demand. So my ask of council is to be patient. This is very much in its infancy. There will be trials and errors. We have to acknowledge that. We're going off of random data and trying to fix it through a business plan. And that itself is imprecise. There is no other way to truly get the data than running a program and adjusting it as information comes in. So this 5-year runway allows you to do it. That being said, it's important that there be continual touch points with the township, where there's presentations to council, identifying what the trends and analysis are showing, what adjustments need to be made to the system to evolve as that information becomes available.
Thank you, CEO Billy. And also I'd like to state that, as you were saying, it is a service. It's the same as our arenas or anything else. It is a service, which means you're not going to get a break in ever, because the cost of buses and staffing and everything else is way above what we're going to charge to get on. Now, if you want to charge people $20, $30 a trip, we may get close to the breaking even, but that ends up costing a heck of a lot more than what we're going to be charged. I'd also like to remind everybody that Mobility Plus, we pay almost $500,000 a year. And in 1 year, we only had 62 people use it. So, I mean, I constantly said to the region, I want that changed. I don't want to be charged for, the mobility vehicles that we don't get. I think it's taxi script only, taxi service only. So I don't think we should have to pay for the buses and that, or the Mobility Plus vehicles, but I'll bitch at the meeting about that. Shouldn't have said that. Hours of operation, that's my concern. If we could change it to 7 in the morning. I prefer 7 to 7, but something close to that, because we're doing 9 to what? 9 to.
Just for clarity, I think we, in my comments around, weekday and PM service, we haven't specifically defined exactly what that would be. But if it's like 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, to get into the details, we want to make sure that, for instance, we work backwards from a transfer pulse or time that as folks arrive in the Constable Lagoon, that their wait time for a transfer is low. And so with that we'll see, would it be 6:30, 6:15 from the imagine starting service.
As long as you're not talking 9 o'clock, I'm happy. One more thing I had is, you said co-mingling service, what's the cost of that?
Of operating commingling? In the simplest form, if we look at Wellesley Township, this is a simple example. They currently they have specialized service operated by Qantas Transit.
Yes.
So in a perfect scenario, capacity in that vehicle, there'd be capacity in that vehicle for them to accommodate conventional passengers. Essentially no additional cost, but really we're filling more seats and driving down the cost per passenger by adding people into the vehicle that's already on the road. I know with North Dumfries, it's a little bit different. You're right to point out, the current specialized service and what we're looking to propose and how these merge. So, it would look different from one township to the next. But ultimately, it's looking at the available capacity of the vehicles being used. In this case, I think the more practical switch would be to use what we call a cutaway vehicle. It's a 19 passenger accessible vehicle to be used for mobility plus in the urban areas and similar to what Qantas Transit uses. So if that was the vehicle that we would have, Dumfries, it's really filling butts and seats in those, and it should be on an hourly rate you're paying an operator, right? So it should be the same. Just it's the type of person, the profile of person being arranged to be able to. I hope that answers the question appropriately.
And I'd like to remind council, this is a fluid pilot project. So if they notice that nobody's taking the first 6 months, they'll come back and they'll say, hey, and they'll talk to us and we'll talk about possible changes to make it work. We want to make it work. But we have to first see what happens and then deal with the actual. Council Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had just one last question around the Mobility Plus service and its overlap with this. Through you, Madam Mayor. Is there going to be, like, are we still going to have the same Mobility Plus service and this on top? Or do you anticipate that you would be replacing some of those services with this option that I'm assuming these buses will be accessible as well? So that was just my last question. Thank you.
And to Madam Mayor, that's a very good question. I think and as part of our assessment to operationalize this bit, we don't want to affect the level of service of our specialized customers. So we have to find a way to make sure that is maintained while looking to merge the conventional housing customer with the specialized customer.
Just for point of clarity too on that, Madam Mayor, yeah, so initially for phase one, which we're here to talk about tonight, there'd be no impact to the current delivery of Mobility Plus services to specialized transit. This would be an introductory piece, and then as mentioned, as we hit each new phase of the plan, we have the opportunity to look at how best to ensure that the service levels are maintained or improved through driving down these opportunities to save costs on both sides of that point.
Madam Mayor, I'm interested in actually answering Councillor Bowman's question earlier about
Right.
so that's Kitchener, Cambridge, and extending services. I wanted to give an example that might speak to this. Route 19 in Waterloo is considered an urban route, but it does serve into Woolwich, into the market areas. That's an example where we do that. But I think one thing to keep in mind, and this really comes to costs. When we have a route that runs every 30 minutes, if we're area rating the portion of that 30 minutes, every 30 minutes you're having hours added to that area rating, that the cost would go up quite quickly. And that's where for these services that we're looking to implement, it's one vehicle, it's going in and out, right? It's to get something established, we can use that data and grow from there. And that's really the success we've seen with Route 77. Well, we started in 2016 with one vehicle, and since then we added a vehicle, we've added hours, and they are part of this program as well. We're adding later weekday evenings and weekends. So that's the story of that was almost 10 years ago that we started that. Obviously the population is different, and that's where we would have the hours, the service to be proportional really to the demand, but also the population. And that's where we see a difference between what's in Woolwich now and what's here.
Council Williams.
Madam Mayor, so just to make my last comment, I guess the thing that concerns me the most is just the 401 portion of this trip. And I just think if over half the routes on the 401, that same amount of fuel, same amount of time could be spent going down 97 highway into Cambridge, and you actually have some stops along there. You can actually stop at Selford High School. Like there's different things you can do with that fuel, as opposed to running that fuel up and down the 401. So I guess feel there's no bus stops on the 401. So to me, it makes no sense to run this bus down the 401 just so we can get to Conestoga College, as opposed to saying, let's run it through some of our smaller communities, let's run it through Browns, or let's run it through Roseville. Instead, we're gonna run it down the 401. So that's my concern. I know council, I guess we have no input on this route, but I just disappointed that the route doesn't try to actually have more stops in the township as opposed to being running down the 401.
Madam Mayor, one of the key priorities we've heard from the GRT business plan has been speed. So think about what we're competing with. It's being able to turn a car and get where you need to go direct. as fast as possible. When it comes to transit, we're dealing with that, particularly car ownership, which is increasingly cost prohibitive, as well as Uber or rideshare, which is also even more significant in some places cost prohibitive. The opportunity to leverage our investments in high-speed infrastructure in the highway network and regional Waterloo has been something we're using across the urban areas as well too. So we're proposing at least 2 highway express routes in Kitchener and Waterloo, and currently have one in Cambridge to Kitchener. We've been able to leverage, use of shoulders, plus bypass pieces in those situations. And that has been one of the fundamental pieces we've heard back from the communities. Give me more time back in my day. So understood that when we're looking at this as an opportunity to understand where people are trying to get to, we have a lot of ability to nimble over the 5 years, but we really want to make this a competitive, appealing service for those riders from day one. So speed is the key piece for that. Thank you.
Thank you. One quick question is, the lines in that can use on demand, right?
Yes.
Found something in that, so it doesn't have to be a fixed route, and I bet most of them would prefer on demand than waiting for a fixed route. So, Councillor Tilly.
Just because it seems like there's an opportunity here. So I guess my idea of throw out a concept is, I think there's some feedback that still could be used this way. And obviously, it's a strategy to use existing and the operation and using good thought process is a good one. And sorry, the actual practical use is a good one, but there comes with a cost with that. Would there be an opportunity for a committee of North Dumfries residents and other members to meet and discuss with the Grand River Transit about some potential thoughts and maybe hash out some more ideas? I know it's through questionnaires and opportunity to do that, but I think Councilor Rollman has definitely expressed some good thoughts and is very passionate about this, and understandably he's been here for a while, and I know, Mary, you've seen a lot and had kids raised and move on from here, and grandkids now. Is that a possibility where the residents could be a feet in that way?
If I may, Councillor Tilly, we've had about 5 virtual meetings with the residents, and it was quite busy. I was on 2 or 3 of them, and I mean, there was significantly a number of people there giving their points of view. So you've done that about 5 times, I think, as well as surveys and everything else. So we've already gone through the consultation. And now's the time to put in a pilot project and then go with the real data, because we can't make a good decision until we have the data. And so, and again, it will be fluid. So within the first 6, 7, 8 months, because it'll probably take 8 months to get a good eye feeling of what's happening, all of us will reevaluate it then. And then we will say, okay, so this worked and this didn't, and how do we change it? But we have to move forward and get the data. And another thing is, grant process is happening in the next few weeks, right? And we wait a couple of weeks for Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not really a question, more of a comment. Looking at this proposed route, and I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a prospective employee that lives in the township and wants to work in Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, anywhere like that. To me, it makes more sense that this direct route would go to a main terminal hub versus, like I would think. Would you consider Sports World, Fairview Mall area, like which one of those would be considered more of a main hub versus downtown Cambridge versus Conestoga Dune? Because I'm looking at this as a 35 to 40 minute drive, and then now I'm at Conestoga Dune. So I've got to take another bus from Conestoga Dune to Ainsley Street, if there is one that goes directly there. Then from Ainsley Street, I got to get on another bus and I might miss my shift. So I'm wondering, like, if I'm spending 2 hours in the bus in the morning, if that bus will get me there within the 2 hours, depending on what times you suggest, or it is suggested that they run, and then coming home, that's going to be a 10 to 12 hour day for me. I'm not happy if I've got kids. I can't afford a car. So I'm just wondering if it's more efficient to go to a main hub like Ainsley Street or a main hub Fairview Mall area where the Ion's right there and they can hop on the Ion, get straight up to where they're going.
Madam Mayor, this one gets me a little excited. Maybe the name choice is a bit regrettable, but Conestoga College Station is a major hub that is going to be under construction. We have a plan design approved by council, and we're hoping to go to construction next year. There'll be more information coming to that to regional council. That is actually going to be I'll call it the gateway on Southwest Kitchener and the growing areas around in Cambridge as well too. So we actually have one of the best saturation of high frequency express services connecting at that station environment. So it's not at the campus stores. We're going to have a dedicated hub at that site, canopies, shelter canopies, bays, ability to buy purchase fares, all located there with our express services connecting to it, which are also prior key candidates that we're putting transit priority measures on those corridors. So on the map, it looks irregular, but it is actually one of our key gateway features, has one of the best highest frequency transit services at any of our hubs in the region. So it does provide that piece of when you get there, you are in some instances more likely to have a seamless transfer time than you would at some of the other locations, and you're avoiding some of those key congestion points, like trying to get at the Fairway station, for example, directly on that service. So a lot of services are actually going to connect directly to there. Due today, and the passenger waiting experience is only going to be better. If I may go back to the previous one, one thing we do when we do transit service planning, we are committed to having an information session to, again, in person, similar to what we did online and in person for the business plan development. So assuming a successful application, still be an opportunity to inform residents and have that feedback alongside of the data we collect from service launch too.
Okay, last question, Councillor.
Madam Mayor, so my only question is, regards to Councillor Ross's comments about downtown Cambridge. I thought the region just voted in favor of running the LRT to downtown Cambridge. So why would we be having a bus route that goes to Conestoga College and not go to the LRT? If it went from air into Cambridge and connected to the LRT, then it would have access to all the way up to Waterloo on the LRT. So you're saying for 5 or 6 years or however long it take, we're going to have this route that's going to go to Conestoga College, and then when the LRT is finished, we'll have to change our route. We'll have to change our route and redirect it now to the LRT. So is that what's the plan, in the long-term plan, or are we just not building the LRT in downtown?
The LRT is going to take 4 to 5 years, and by that time that happens, this is going to be over.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's
saying,
what-
Madam Mayor, it makes no sense to me to spend 5 years developing a route. And then, as you said, in 5 or 6 years, the LRT will be established. Now we'll have to scrap this route, start all over, and have a whole new route that goes to the LRT. It makes no sense to me. Why would we do that?
Doing routes is a fluid thing. It changes monthly, quarterly, yearly. It is a fluid document. The most essential thing is getting the vehicles to run the routes. And then you make the changes as time changes. So yeah, it may turn out to be Ainsley. It may turn out to be Ainsley in a year. But this is just the pilot project. We will be constantly reevaluating it, and we'll go for that. Councilwoman, the motion, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Williams, that the presentation from Adam Fraser and Kevin Marshall, Regional Waterloo, regarding the GRT Township Transit Strategy update be received with thanks, and that council adopt the overarching principles of the Township Transit Strategy, and that council embrace the principle of a commingled delivery of on-demand and mobility transit services as an instrument to achieve efficiencies in cost-effective service delivery, and the township has the expectation that the region will implement this accordingly. And that council supports the submission of a grant application to the province under the Ontario Transit Investment Fund, OTIF, to support the rollout of transit services in the township comprised of a fixed route network and a commingled on-demand mobility system. And that staff continue to work with regional staff to fine-tune the routing for the fixed route bus network and the commingled on-demand mobility system. And that staff and regional staff pursue further discussions and engagement with the business owners and operators in the 9741 Business Park area to better understand their needs with respect to the delivery of transit services, and that regional staff returned in mid-year 2026 with an update on the township transit strategy for council's consideration.
All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. On 8.2, we have Tracy Hare, Brian King, and Sarah Bedard with Waterloo Region Immigration Partnership Council regarding an update on the immigration. Oh, I'm sorry, Patrick Gilbert, Executive Director of Wheat Green Solutions regarding the 2024 and 2025 impact report. Patrick, please. There you are. Anderson. Because I don't know what's all. Sorry, Tara, soon. Go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Coxton, councilors and staff. I'm very pleased to be here, as you said, to share with you our most recent impact report for 24-25 and some of the stories from around the region. This year is a special milestone for us. It's our 25th year of delivering these types of reports. 25 years represents an entire generation's worth of impact, which is all the more important because we know that the decisions that we make today will resonate for many generations. And just wanted to show you some of the impact from people in the community over the past 25 years. And we're very sort of hopeful that this will create the necessary momentum that we need, that will drive the next generation's worth through to some of our targets in 2030 and 2050, to carry the momentum to catalyze everything from the energy transition to planting trees across the region and to flood proofing entire neighborhoods. So Jamie is a story of a great example of someone looking to make that energy transition. He installed a hybrid heat pump system. He's migrating his family's energy consumption from gas to electricity. But with the recent cancellation of the federal carbon tax, Jamie also installed solar panels to offset that electricity use. And we're finding that that is becoming a more and more common pairing just for that reason. Between 2023 and 2024, over half of the heat pumps that were installed in Ontario homes were undersized. Many contractors don't have all of the information that they need to make an informed recommendation, which leads to a one-size-fits-all scenario. With a little extra work, when we perform an energy evaluation, we can analyze the HVAC requirements and the electrical load requirements to make sure that those heat pumps are sized properly and operate most efficiently possible. With the wildfires that we've experienced across Canada this past year, it's a stark reminder of the need to adapt to the extreme weather that we're encountering more and more. For our Healthy Yards program, we work with homeowners to use nature as a way to make their neighborhoods more resilient to that extreme weather, in particular flooding. With our Rain Smart Neighborhoods program, we take a targeted approach to focus this work in priority neighborhoods that are at the greatest risk of flooding. And these landscape changes can also have many benefits, like improving water quality. Water quality, as I'm sure you know, is of particular importance in our community as we draw upwards of 80% of our drinking water from groundwater sources. In order to protect this precious resource, we help to deliver a program run by the region of Waterloo that works with property owners to reduce their salt use for winter maintenance, which is all more relevant given the weather in the last 24 hours. Our popular backyard tree planting program continued in Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, and Guelph. And we've also piloted some limited tree planting in Woolwich Township as well. So we're certainly looking to expand the program. We recognize the importance that the benefits that trees provide that we plant are shared equitably throughout the community. So we launched a phase of a community canopy program to plant trees in lower canopy neighborhoods. This pilot presented opportunities to work with residents to determine where they needed trees the most and where we knew they would thrive. We planted trees in people's yards at low or no cost. And the city of Kitchener planted trees in public spaces, boulevard parks and other sort of spaces at the same time to really transform those neighborhoods. This might be the most exciting one. So our tree nursery is up and running. It's in North Dumfries. And we're growing 10,000 saplings per year, all grown from locally collected seed, and with 42 different volunteers that gave their time to grow and distribute those trees. I'm really glad to be here on this today with this vigorous conversation around public transit. I know for a fact that that number would be much higher because we've talked to a lot of volunteers who didn't have access to our nursery because they didn't have a vehicle. So starting this fall, inspired by Trees for Woolwich, we're teaming up with the region and the townships of Wellesley and Wilmot to launch an expanded roadside tree planting program. We secured funding from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for this project, which we know will bring more trees and biodiversity to rural roadsides. We've begun planting trees along regional roads in Wellesley this fall. And we're starting the planning for next year. And over the course of the next 3 years, we're going to plant 9,000 trees in those two townships. And like I said, that's funded through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and with matching funding from the region along regional roads. The township of Wellesley is also kicking in some funding to plant along some other township roads. We co-lead Climate Action WR with Sustainable Waterloo Region in partnership with all of our municipalities, including North Dumfries. Most recently, we launched our With You We Can campaign to offer an on-ramp by connecting people with local resources so that they can start their sustainability journey. We always talk about our financial results in terms of transparency as we're a registered charity. This was a down year for us. We saw a significant decline in our fees per service revenue because of event energy evaluations going down with the lack of the federal Greener Homes program and other sort of incentives for homeowners to do energy efficient retrofits. And so I'll just wrap up by saying thank you to all of our sort of partners. The ones you see on the slide are our core funders, and we know Mayor Foxton, you're part of regional council. That's an important sort of mix. Again, we see some utilities there. We always put out overtures to Grandbridge as well, so we're working on that. But yeah, this is our opportunity as we come every year to say thank you to all of our partners, because that provides that stability because of the boom and bust cycles that I was talking about. So I'll leave it there, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor, any questions? Seeing none, I've got a few. So the heat pumps, I put one in expecting money, to drop and goes up. And gas did drop drastically. Hydro went up drastically. There was no savings, and I'm so glad you're telling people if you're putting a heat pump in to get a solar panel. Because the amount of hydro up there is. It was a wash, which is sad. I was hoping today. When you said that they're undersized, do you mean they're getting too small for the homes?
Generally speaking, they are undersized for most homes that are installed in the township.
And the tree planting.
Mhm.
So I know you and I talked about tree planting, and so that conversation maybe we can have further down the road to see where we can plant trees in our rural areas.
It's not there, we did apply for the grant, and we just received notification of the success.
From we,
No, we have CM.
So we could potentially have capacity within our existing grants. To expand that roadside depending if there's opportunities. Like I said, we have to plant 9,000 trees over the next 3 years. This fall, we've done about 1,600, so there could be opportunity.
So with that opportunity of knocking, please answer our door.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, can I have the motion, please, Councillor Terry?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Roman, that the delegation from Patrick Kilbride, Executive Director of REAP Green Solutions regarding the 2024-2025 impact report be received with thanks. And that staff work with REAP Green Solutions to promote their services and programs with the objective of engaging township residents.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Tara, you're sorry about the delay. No. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mike's often really seem to. And welcome.
You very well. Thank you very much for having us here today. My name is Dr. Ernest Hussein. Unfortunately, Tracy and Brian were not able to be with us due to unforeseen circumstances. So I'm here with my colleague Dow from the House of Friendship. He's also a member of the New Immigration Partnership.
We can't hear, can you move it to the mic a little closer? Is it up enough or?
It's on.
It's on?
Yes, it's on. Yep.
So just maybe. Thank you.
Okay. Hope you can hear me now.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I don't have to go over it again. So we are here to share the work of the Immigration Partnership, to introduce our new immigration partnership strategy, which was included in the package, and also to talk about some shared investment work. Immigration, as we all know, is shaping the future of this region. According to the latest census, more than 1 in 4 residents of Waterloo region are immigrants, and many more are temporary residents. Here in North Dumfries, immigrants they make up almost about 12% of the population. And these numbers have grown quickly in the last 5 years. And immigration is now the biggest driver of population and labor force growth, helping the region to reach its 1 million. Now, just a little bit about the Immigration Partnership. The Immigration Partnership has been operating for the last 16 years. It builds on earlier work through the Waterloo Region Immigration Employment Network, which help businesses to meet their talent needs through immigration. Recognizing that focusing on just employment is not enough, the work of the Immigration Partnership now spans on 3 main pillars: settle, work, and belong. We are a very small but mighty group, just 4.5 FTE, coordinating about 70 organizations and 120 community leaders across sectors such as social and settlement services, education, health, businesses, government, cultural, and faith, and many others. In the rural townships, we work closely with regional library system, school boards, Engage Rural, the food bank, and the social services service providers. Together, we support more than 10,000 newcomers each year as they settle in our region. People who need housing, healthcare, employment, and the sense of belonging together with each other. Through the mayor, I will now hand over to my colleague to talk about our strategy.
So I'll be talking about, I'll start with the highlights of our recent work. We created the Workplace Immigrant Network, WIN, which has helped over 850 newcomers across the region find work and access training. We coordinated services and helped secure over $2 million in funding for local programming during major refugee arrivals from Syria to Ukraine. We lead annual community initiatives like Welcoming Week, the Waterloo Region Migration Film Festival, which strengthened community welcoming and belonging, including a screening of this year's featured film, A Dream Called Kushi, at the Air Library coming up on November 18th. And we gather and share detailed data to help local organizations and governments plan effectively for our growing newcomer population. The new regional immigration strategy. Our new strategy is grounded in the input of nearly 1,700 immigrants and partner organizations. It aligns closely with themes of North Dumfries' strategic plan for a growing and welcoming community where, and focuses on three things. One, helping local services meet the needs of our changing population. Two, giving employers the tools to tap into immigrants' talent. And three, ensuring our communities are welcoming and inclusive. So our request to the Township of North Dumfries. This work is socially and economically vital. It is a shared responsibility across community, business, government, and all of our regional communities. The backbone team and community programming have been supported by the region of Waterloo, United Way Waterloo Region communities, and the federal and provincial governments. Local partner organizations have also contributed their staff and other resources each year. We currently face an annual funding gap of about $230,000. We are seeking out new funding and are pleased to have recently received $50,000 in new support from Waterloo Region Community Foundation over the next 2 years. Today, we are asking the Township of North Dumfries to endorse the Immigration Partnerships 2025 Regional Immigration Strategy and align with its goals. And we're also asking for an investment of $5,000 annually in the collaborative work that supports newcomers, employers, and our regional community as a whole. We're making similar requests of all of our area municipalities and seeking business investments as we build the future of this work together. Thank you for having us, and we're happy to answer your questions.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, if I understood correctly, your shortfall is in the realm of $230,000. And I was just wondering how $5,000 would actually help with that gap, since it seems quite a bit less.
Yeah, and I'll take a shot and then have Tara support me with the rest. So what we've been doing is we've gone to the region for support. We've gone to the rest of the area municipalities as well to support. We're also looking at the business communities as well for support. And as I mentioned during the speech, we've also secured $50,000 over 2 years from the Waterloo Regional Community Foundation.
Ian McLean, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, thanks.
Welcome, Ian.
Thank you for having us. And through you, Mayor Foxton, just to build on that, and I think part of this is, I know it's a difficult budget year. I guess they always are. They were when I was on council. They are when, for you this year. We did have a cut of almost $250,000 from the federal government. The reality is there's still going to be between 10 and 12,000 newcomers end up settling here in Waterloo Region. So the work doesn't dissipate just because the funding did. And while there may be macro cuts in immigration across the country, that won't be the case here. We are the #1 destination after people their initial usually arrive in Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, but we are #1 destination after they've arrived in Canada. So but the answer to your question, Counselor, is what we're trying to do is get from the townships and each of the cities and the region is roughly get about half of that cut. And then much like I do and Greg DeRocher would do in the Cambridge Chamber, is I try and leverage the dollars that we get from the public sector to go to the private sector and say this is important for the whole community because it is a shared responsibility. Our workforce of the future are going to come from newcomers, but they're also your residents. They come here. We need to make sure they settle properly, that they have a sense of belonging, and they can find work because they are the workforce of the future. So, the idea is that if we can get half the way there, my commitment and Tracy and others from the business community are do what we normally do, which is go and pass the hat for the business community to say this work's important. The public sector, the councils have done their bit. It's now up to us to fill the rest of the gap.
Thank you, Ian, if I could interject. So I worked in special ed for the Board of Education in the late 1970s, end of 1970s, 1980s. And at that time, Canada hit 0 population growth. So that means that for every 2 adults, there were 2 children. So, and we were meeting the demand of the workforce, but all of a sudden we weren't. As workers, businesses grew and developed, there were no longer workers. Today's generation is deciding not to have any children. Actually, there was a slowdown, and there was in the late 1980s, 90s, that people decided that they were not having children. They didn't have them until way later in life, which created a real gap in our businesses struggling to find workers. And I was involved with workplaces that were saying we can't find them. They're not going. Immigration is what has sustained our society. And again, we're in that crux today, where children are delaying, or adults are delaying having children, or not having them at all. And we're in that crux. And if we want to survive, a society to survive, we not only have to welcome these people, but we have to get them integrated. We have to get them into the job market so that we can get our society continually to move. And we have to also remember, at one point in our lives, our grandparents or great-grandparents were the immigrants. So this is not new to Canada. This is what made Canada, the diversity of nations coming together to create an amazing country. And that's all they're asking for, is that chance to do that. I just wanted to put my 2 cents with them. Any comments or questions, councillors? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please, Councillor Austin?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Tilley, that the delegation from Tracy Hare, Brian Cam, and Tara Bedard with Waterloo Region Immigration Partnership Council regarding an update on the immigration partnership and the 2025 to 2028 Waterloo Region Immigration Strategy and funding be received with thanks, and that the request for a $5,000 investment be referred to the 2026 budget deliberations.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. On a side note, seeing will this be able to go into grants? And also not meet the criteria for grants. Thank you. Thanks. We will see you guys around. Take care. Next up is our patiently waiting Mike Schmidt, Kate Cressman, John Gillespie, Linda Knox United Church Air requesting relief on the rezoning fees on the Knox Church parcel. You're on, folks.
Okay, Madam Mayor, councillors, pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of Knox United Church and Air. So I'm John Gillespie and I'm chair of the council. care of the trustees at the church. And I want to address one issue on the lighter side here. The previous speaker with the transportation was talking about the issue of the Northumberland Street crossing of the CPR. Well, I was reading in our today's and yesterday's, 142 years ago, North Dumfries was addressing that issue because the delays were much too long at the CPR crossing. And of course, the CPR had only been there for 3 years. There. Anyways, we do have an exciting project on the go at Knox Church addressing the issue of housing in the village of Ayr, the township of North Dumfries. And I'm going to turn the request over to my colleagues, fellow members of Knox Church, Catherine Cressman and Michael Schmidt.
Well, since I've heard that name, thank you, John. John's known me for a long time.
Yes, I know.
I'm also a member of the Knox Church, and I just want to bring up a little bit about what state we're in right now. We provide free of charge weekly, 3 nights a week for our Scout program, our Young at Heart program for seniors, which is a Friday, every Friday they have a meal there. We provide concerts, space for concerts and so on, and we don't charge them either. And many other things. We're very generous to our community because we want a place for them to hold their events. That's really the bottom line. We provide reduced rentals to our North Dumfries preschool 5 days a week. Local groups, for example, the Nutcracker Christmas craft show that last Saturday. That was a very small rental for them. And then we have weddings and funerals and Ayr community theater shows and several others. As we have these midweek activities, we obviously need to heat the building every day. Our heating costs last year were close to 90,000. We have recently installed a new furnace system because we had no option. The other one was leaking, pipes were leaking, walls were being damaged, so we had no choice. The cost for this new furnace was well over 100,000. We are now starting a major fundraising campaign goal for ourselves again for 50,000 to add air conditioning because the church is extremely hot in the summer. And I know some people have chosen other locations for weddings because of the heat. We are confident this will help our building, our folks to get more rentals. Our congregation is very supportive of these improvements. However, it is a real cost to the aging congregation. Another project that we did recently was to change the front choir loft into a larger stage area so it's more adaptable for plays, concerts, and large groups, and that has really helped. But again, the temperature is what keeps some of them coming. We want to stay open as a community hub, as well as a historical gem, as you all know. We are very, very proud of this church building, but it is becoming more difficult to keep it up. Thank you very much.
So where are we going? Discussions on the redevelopment of the large parking lot area at Knox Church have been ongoing since 2023, and many the mayor, councillors have been out to the church to view our project or our goals for the project. Having such a large parking lot and little need for it, except during large funerals or community concerts, prompted us to look at how it could be redeveloped into an attainable housing building and more efficient paid parking. Knox's submission to the township for rezoning the parking lot and sale of a block of land will allow us to generate much needed funds to continue the great legacy of community building. Knox is not in a position to build an apartment building, but believe we can be a good partner to a community-minded developer who can build a building to meet community housing needs and fit in with the historic character of Knox Church. Since 2023, the congregation of Knox has spent $30,000 on consulting reports to support the rezoning application. We are asking the township to waive further rezoning fees of $6,615 plus the deposit. And that's our ask today, is that the township waive the further fees for rezoning so that Knox can move forward with the rezoning of this property.
Councilors, any questions? Council Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is this, I'm not totally aware of the project that is being proposed here, so perhaps I could get a quick 30-second summary.
Yeah, so we're seeking rezoning of our property for a 33 unit apartment building, an attainable apartment building, because the needs of the township are growing in terms of attainable apartments. They're served by Kirkwood with its 53 units, but we're looking at building 33 more predominantly 2-bedroom units because we're finding that more couples are in need of housing in the township.
Council Roman.
Madam Mayor. Like I do think this is a great project and I'm definitely in favor of it. I just think there's a lot of unknowns right now, so I think we should probably ask staff to do a report. And that's one of our options tonight. Just for my own comfort, I'd like to know what the staff's take on this and what our potential liabilities and costs are, and how much money we're talking about here. So that's kind of the direction I'm going in.
If I can put in my 2 cents worth, a situation happened in another township where a developer came in and said, I'm gonna put affordable housing. So they waived fees and everything else, and the developer, when it was done, said, I'm not gonna make them affordable. And I said to the mayor of that township, why didn't you get a written contract saying that they have to maintain them for affordable for 25 years, which is common practice? So right now, we don't know who the purchaser is. If it was affordable, there would be certain write-offs, but if it's not, and it's for profit, then they should be in, we money back to the church or whatever. So again, staff need to come back to us, I feel as well, but let's have the motion, please, Councillor Roman.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Tilly, that the delegation from Mike Schmidt, Kate Pressman, Catherine Pressman, and John Gillespie with Knox United Church regarding a request for relief on the zoning bylaw amendment fee and the refundable peer review deposit fee for potential planning act application in support of the redevelopment of a portion of the Knox United Church property for residential purposes be received with thanks, and that staff return to a future meeting with a follow-up report with consideration of council.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Have a good night, folks. Request of items from the consent agenda, anybody wish to lift them? Councillor Williams.
I'd like to lift 10.1.2, please.
2.
10.1.2, the EV charging stations.
Yes. Anybody else? Anybody else?
So this is,
Councillor
sorry,
Williams.
So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to look at the correspondence that we did announce. C from Lindsay Pickering regarding the Greenville Road, and also D from Elizabeth Walker regarding the children play sign.
Yes. Anyone else? Clerk, how do we handle this?
Strike those items off.
Strike, yeah,
And then we'll do everything else.
Please, we will strike off 10.1.2. Item. Okay. Like that one. Okay, and then it's C and D. Councillor Tilly, can I have the motion, please? Reminding, can you strike out 10.1.2? You already did good that. Thank you.
moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ossner, that the following information items be listed on the November 10th, 2025 consent agenda be received. 10.1.1, report number FD 11, 2025, Fire Department Incident Response Summary for October 2025. 10.2. 1, communications correspondence, resolution received from the town of Wasaga Beach regarding mandatory water safety and swim to survive training. Resolution B, resolution received from the city of Brampton regarding provincial decision on automated speed enforcement. E, correspondence received from the Prime Minister's awards regarding nominations are now open. F, resolution received from the municipality of St. Charles regarding the closure of before and after school programs. G, resolution received from the town of Wasaga Beach regarding public safety requirements to protect our communities. H, correspondence received from Glen Santos regarding Branch Road.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Councillor Rose, you were first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'd like to just start with just a question through you to staff regarding how many people have been already parking in those EV zones that aren't charging and aren't EV cars.
See you over here.
So Madam Mayor, the charging stations have only been in operation for about 2 weeks, so we don't have a lot of data or trends. There is a mechanism in the act. Protect those spaces so they have both vehicles that are seen charged, hence why bylaw.
Thank you. I'm a bit concerned about this bylaw. I fully agree with keeping spaces available for accessibility purposes, but I struggle with keeping prime, and those are very prime parking spots, available for EV charging only. I'm all for having EV charging stations. I don't feel comfortable at all with charging people for parking in a public parking lot on a spot that is not accessibility oriented. And as much as and I don't think it's really a good use of our fines. I have also heard concerns from residents that we are having a lot of fees and fines attached to things that we haven't had for a number of years. And for me, this just seems like a little bit like we're just piling on. And I really rather we defer this until we actually have data that people are parking when there's other room available. And I'm thinking particularly about times when the whole parking lot's full and you have 4 parking spots just sitting there empty. It just doesn't feel right to me that we should be fining people for just parking.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'd just like to comment through you to Councillor Williams. I own an EV. And so there's nothing more frustrating than having your charge very, very low. And you arrive by your app, you look at your app, you find an open charging station, you drive to that location, now you're almost out of charge. You get there, you can't plug in your vehicle because somebody who's not an EV is parked in that spot. So now my vehicle becomes inoperable, or my vehicle, I have to get it boosted, or I have to try and find another spot. And it happens all the time in EV spots that people are parking when they're not charging. So the reason behind the fines is not necessarily because I'm trying to penalize people, it's because people who with EV need to charge can't access the charging. And the only reason why those charging spots are in that location is because that location was the closest to the electrical panel. So it's not that we're trying to give them prime spots, we're trying to minimize the cost of taxpayers. I mean, we could put the charging station at the back of the parking lot, it probably would cost a lot of extra money to run all those wires. So we put it in the most logical spot based on electricity. And in terms of people parking there who aren't charging, it's very frustrating as an EV owner, or even as a hybrid EV owner, pull in and you can't charge because someone who is not an EV is parking that spot. It happens all the time.
Councillor Rose.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I may address Councillor Williams' concerns, and I agree that typically it would not be nice, but I'm also thinking about those times where this parking lot is overloaded and you have kids and you've got hockey bags, you've got everything else for a tournament, and there's 4 parking spots sitting there and you can't park there, and it's just very, very frustrating as someone who doesn't drive an EV, that there's parking spots that are specific for them, where, I understand why we put them where they were, and it makes total sense from a financial perspective. And I'm not opposed to where they are. I am opposed to fining people for just parking, especially when the parking lots are completely full and that's the only places that they have to park. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, and I think we should be deferring until we actually have data of people parking where they shouldn't be. And I don't think we have that right now.
Seeing no other questions, can I have Oh, I need to move it. I seconded for this. Mr. Roman, will you move it? And, so who's this for? Council Roman, did you move it? And a seconder? Council Taylor, thank you. Council Roman, please.
Moved by myself, sent by Councilor Tilly, that BLE report number 17-2025 be received. And that bylaw number 3601-25 being a bylaw to amend bylaw traffic and parking bylaw 2559-13 to account for provision of electric vehicle charging stations, restrict parking stall be enacted. And the staff undertake the necessary procedures to facilitate the establishment of short form wording and set fines under part 2 provincial offenses act.
All those in favor? Carried, opposed? Thank you. It's carried. Okay, now we are at, correspondence, Lindsay Pickens regarding safety of pedestrians and cars in Greenfield Road. Council Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you guys to staff, I had a discussion with my neighbor, Lindsay Pickering, and she's concerned about safe passage across Northumberland Street, even though we have lowered the speed limits and whatnot along there. She's sorry, Greenfield Road. Even though we've lowered the speed limits there, she's concerned about the safe passage of pedestrians and cyclists. And part of that is because of the lack of street lighting. She feels it's dark there. Part of that is because of the, as you mentioned in the last meeting, the speed of those gravel trucks. So she has looked at other communities, I guess, where they have lit, yellow lit, I guess, LED pedestrian crossing signs. I'm not sure if it's a crosswalk or just a warning sign that she's referring to, but she wants to know what can we do to enhance the awareness of motorists, that pedestrians and children and cyclists and whatnot are crossing North Greenfield Road to come across to the NDCs.
CA McNeely, please.
So, Madam Mayor, there's two items. Council in late August adopted a community safety zone for this section of Greenfield Road, extending approximately from the Northumberland intersection through to Millar. So similar to what we have in some of the school areas, if there is a police officer to witness of speeding and you're within the community safety zone, both the fine and the demerit points are applied and are doubled versus other road sections. Those signs have not yet been installed. The locates are underway. Once those locates are completed, the additional signage would be incorporated. At present, there is signage on east and west approaches to the entry driveway into the NDCC. They are the wrong signs. They are written in text saying pedestrians crossing ahead. They're not the standardized signs under the Highway Traffic Act. So, you know, if you take a look around most school areas, look at Northumberland, in proximity to Knox United with this crosswalk. You have the yellow, green fluorescent. It's a recognized emblem, talking about a pedestrian crossing. It doesn't have to be a school crossing. It is a identified crossing. And those signs have been ordered, and what is there today will be removed, and those standardized pedestrian crossing signs will be put in place on the east and west approaches. You may note, crosswalk was actually changed in September. Where we have mid-block crossings, where we're trying to bring pedestrians and it's not at a controlled intersection. We've gone what we call a ladder crosswalk to enhance for drivers the knowledge that pedestrians would be crossing at that locale. So it's both by speed, the community safety zone signage, the appropriate approach signage to the crosswalk, as well as the markings themselves. All of those things are in place, or will be in place at this location.
Any other questions or comments? Can I have the motion, please? While you're printing off the motion, see how should it demand down the road, say next year or whatever, would we put a light crosswalk there, a lit crosswalk? Like with the flashing lights when you want to cross?
So, Madam Mayor, that is actually pedestrian activated crosswalk. And there are actually warrants that are required under the Highway Traffic Act and the associated regulations to put pedestrian crosswalks. I would be very, very surprised if we have criteria in terms of crossing movements based on today's assessment. I mean, I don't know what 5 years might bring or 10 years might bring, but certainly today's context, I would be surprised if we have the ones.
Okay, Councillor Austin, will you move this?
Hmm?
Can you move this?
Sure.
And Councillor Jones, will you second? Thank you.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wilms, that the correspondence received from Lindsay Pickering regarding the safety of pedestrians and cars on Greenfield Road be received.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And next. Councillor Wallman, item D.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Elizabeth Walker is my neighbor on Piper Street as well. And a few years ago on Piper Street, there was a petition put forward by some residents about lowering traffic, the speeds on Piper Street. And I think we've done a lot to stop it. We had a stop sign, we put in the raised pedestrian crossing. There's still a couple of sections of Piper Street that are concerning during commuter times. One is from the intersection of Piper and Church up to Walters, Piper and Walter. There seems to be a lot of speeding along there. Feels like there's a lot of speeding along there. And then the other section is basically from the pedestrian, the raised pedestrian crosswalk out, leaving the village. And residents in those two areas have basically been coming to me saying they'd like to see a speed hump, they'd like to see additional traffic coming. I know our study has shown that the speeding is not excessive, it's 52 or 53 is the median speed. The residents feel that that's too fast. So they would like to see eventually a speed hump. But in the meantime, I guess with their frustration, they've been coming to me saying, can we put up signs that say, children that play, that sort of thing. This particular resident had one of those temporary signs on the boulevard, and somebody apparently vandalized it or stole it or something. So they're looking for some sort of way just to remind those commuters who are cutting through, especially when the train is backing up on Trusser Road. Remind those commuters that people live here and children are playing here, and maybe you shouldn't be racing from the stop sign to stop sign and down to Fifth Street to beat the train. So I know it doesn't happen all the time. It tends to happen generally when the trains are there. So the residents, I guess this is really just a request begging us to do something. So they're saying maybe some sort of sign would be okay. Ideally, some sort of speed hump would be preferable. So that's kind of where we're at with this right now.
CEO McNally.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate the context we're talking about Piper Street, because from the email, staff wasn't clear as to what road we were talking about, because it doesn't identify what part of the overall network being discussed. I'm not too sure with reference to the temporary sign, because in the summertime, we did post for about a 3-week span, about 100 meters. I guess it'd be west of the Piper Church Street intersection. We did post a mobile speed sign, and we were doing both.
The sign talking about, you remember when the township was handing out people that said children are at play or whatever.
We have lots of those.
That's the sign that you received from townships.
So the temporary sign,
It's a little metal sticks that do that.
those are, this is sort of temporary.
No, I mean, yeah, they're like lawn signs.
Yeah, we have lots of those.
Yeah.
We can make those available.
Yeah.
We did model speed of approximately 100 meters west of the Church Piper intersection for about a 3-week period through the summer. And we did both trip counts as well as speed. Councilors, you identified the 85th percentile was a kilometer or two above the posted speed. We actually today, and for the last approximate 3-week period, have had a sign further to the west, beyond the bend, where you're sort of leaving the urban area and moving into the countryside as we move closer to Gladstone at Piper. And similar to what we did earlier in the summer, near Church and Piper, we are measuring speed as well as traffic volume. And we looked at that locale partly because we wanted to get a better understanding of what people were traveling once they cleared all the stop signs and the raised crosswalk during, I'll call it the built-up portion of Piper Street. As well as what is the speed of vehicles entering into the village, because on premises and people have speed entering the village, they're carrying it perhaps further into the village than it should be. So that sign will be coming down in the next few days, because that's pretty well at the end of the 3-week period, we'll have a pretty good interval of data. And it should inform what is occurring, similar to the built-up area out in the edges of Piper as we move toward Gladstone and through to Trusted. Posted speed limit is 50 kilometers an hour. So I'm not too sure if the issue is speeding or whether it is, are we looking at an appropriate speed limit? These are two different things. We're not witnessing speeding vis-a-vis the posted speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour. So people are respecting by majority the posted speed limit. And certainly the measures that council's brought in over the last 2 or 3 years with a series of stop signs and the raised crosswalk has been system in terms of modulating speed. Independent and separate to all of this and across all of the settlement areas. Council's previously tasked us with looking at what is an appropriate posted speed on our residential streets that are within the jurisdiction, the township, in both urban air as well as the rural settlements. That work is underway. We, as I've mentioned previously, we are relying very heavily on data that's been based on programs that were imposed in the city of Kitchener, and we now are able to look at 3 or 4 years worth of data and their experience and how lowering speeds has made a difference in terms of compliance with reduction speed, what it may look like in terms of collision or near miss or accident history, as well as whether or not it's been supportive in terms of furthering their net zero proposal, trying to reduce accidents, but promoting pedestrian and cycling activity in the neighborhoods. We do anticipate bringing that report to council by the end of this calendar year. And council coming out of that may be looking at changing our posted speed limits across our local road network in our various residential neighborhoods. But it wouldn't be a site specific, it would be done on a more comprehensive, uniform approach, largely data driven.
Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So to that, to the comments of the CEO, what the residents have observed is that because we now have this raised crosswalk on Piper Street, and then we have that short distance to Rose Street, that section people don't really speed. They go about maybe 35 or 40. Then from Rose Street to Walter Street, again, there's 2 stop signs, so you don't really get above 40. As soon as you pass the stop sign at Walter Street heading east on Piper Street, you now have this longer stretch where people are now getting up to 50. So suddenly people who are living in this piece are saying, well, this isn't fair. Everyone's driving 35 or 40 by the stop signs. As soon as they click stop signs, they're now driving 50 in front of my house, which is the speed limit. That's the speed limit, but it seems fast in comparison to those other sections that are slower. And the same thing happens going the other way. As you leave the village, you drive 40 to 40 through those 2 stop sign zones. And then as soon as you clear that last traffic crosswalk, then you just gun it and head out of town. So that's, maybe they're driving 50, but the impression that people have is that this seems really, really fast compared to this one section. So that's the feedback that I'm getting.
So maybe we want the staff to come back with a suggestion and debate checked into some data as CEO was talking about. I'll count so Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Piper Street. I mean, we've put the humps, we've put the stop signs, we've slowed people down. We've made the area residents happy because of I think they're forgetting how fast people were traveling before without those stop signs. So now we've done all that and it's not good enough. I mean, keeping people at the speed limit isn't good enough. I don't get it. And you can put up signs as much as you want. You can put seniors crossing, children crossing, you know, people walking dogs. You can put up any sign you want. You're not gonna get them down to 42 kilometers from 50, because if that's what we need to do, then we need to go with the staff report as to when we are talking about, but it is a problem all across air, and I'm sure the township.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot worse areas. I think we've done really well on Piper Street. I don't mean to, to push this aside like it's not important, but I don't, my personal opinion, I don't think it's a priority, and I live on that street. I think we've done a great job on that street. And for that small section, like, I mean, you gotta push it if you want to get up to 50 kilometers before you hit your brakes for the stop sign. So I think we're splitting hairs on this one, but, you know, I respect what all of council decides to do. Uh, I think this is a bit much, though.
Miss Abby, Amy, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, at the invitation of the mayor, I agree with Councillor Oster, and I do agree with Councillor Rowland, and I also agree with Andrew that,
Wow, this never happened. You're right.
Let's.
How ridiculous. Great.
Somebody get a cake.
I think, in my opinion, the vehicles might be loud, but they're not going fast. And as far as children at play, they're crossing the road, but I haven't seen a kid play in the front yard on Piper Street since they paved Trustler Road. So, you know, just in my opinion, I think what council has done has worked, but the area around the ACC, in my humble opinion, should be a community safety zone. And if that zone extended to Walter Street, it'd be a good area for speed enforcement.
So, CEO McNeely, you're up. And you can say thank you first to Miss Abby.
So Madam Mayor, just through to the statement about the community safety zone. In that same report in August, Piper Street, from effectively the bridge at Piper Street, through to past the raised crosswalk at the edge of the western edge of the village boundary, has also been designated as a community safety zone, and it also is an area we're waiting for the locates to be undertaken, so the additional community safety zone signage would go in place. Now, it doesn't necessarily translate into people lowering their speed below the posted speed limit. It's where police enforcement witnesses someone speeding above the posted speed limit.
So, Council, where are we at with this motion? Well, and there's a few things I want to say. Could we please not go down and put 3 different speeds in a community? I hate going through certain communities. There's 30, it's 40, it's 50. I'm watching for speed signs rather than watching the road. It's just so inconsistent. So I agree with the 40, I can agree with the 50, but I don't want to mess with all these other ones. Councilor Roman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, you're right, because I've also had complaints from residents over on Mitchell Street or you know, various Hilltop. Everyone's complaining about the same sort of things. We all know same complaints all over the township. And I know we talked about it before, about, you know, lowering speed limits to 40, and is there any value in that? Because people drive the road feel, they don't necessarily drive the speed limit. I don't know what the answer is, but I know 12 years on council, and most of my complaints have been either about parking or speed.
So you're suggesting automatic speed enforcement?
Blow.
So, may I suggest that the motion be that, staff handle this and come back with a report? As you were talking, CO McBilly, about you going to bring forward some information.
So Madam Mayor, not specific to this request, we already have a standing resolution from council to come back with the broad picture about residential streets in both urban area and rural settlement areas as to preferred posted speed limits to deal with speeding, to deal with pedestrian and cycling opportunities. So we already have that resolution with the Township Council.
So ladies and gentlemen, is that good enough? So, this will just receive the information with thanks, so. Motion's coming. Councilor Roman, will you move it? Councilor Kelly, will you second? Thank you. That one on Granchton Road from Glen, I haven't heard back from the region, I think I'll send that email again. Yes.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Tilly, that a correspondence received from Elizabeth Walker regarding children play sign fees.
All those in favor? There we go. Um, 11.2.1, report number rec 30/2025, follow up on outdoor pickleball courts in there. Any questions from the public?
No.
Okay. Any questions from member public? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councilor Cox?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Osmer, that rec report number 30/2025 be received, and that commencing for the 2026 operating season, that the existing 5 lit tennis court pickleball courts located at Jim Schmidt Memorial Park and Victoria Park be maintained as dual use courts, and that staff, to accommodate the dual use of the courts for both tennis and pickleball, undertake the following: install signage at both locations advising patrons of the dual use of the courts and how the nets can be marginally adjusted utilizing the counterweights to raise or lower to accommodate play. That storage bins and counterweights be acquired and installed to facilitate the dual use activities and provide periodic information awareness utilizing the township's social media platforms and on the corporate website advising of the dual use of the respective facilities.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Report number rec 33/2025, donations. Mayor for the stand for the purchase of new chairs at the Air Community Center. Any questions from the public? Councilors, any questions? I have one, and it's going to be probably to an Air Paris band member. Would you accept donations for chairs?
Did we, or we?
Will you?
Oh, we can, yeah.
How much are they? Karen?
Through you to Mayor, $42 per chair.
That include tax?
It does not.
So I may consider that. So, thank you. If no questions, can I have a motion, please, Councilor Rowan?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Osner, that rec report number 33/2025 be received and that council formally accepts the $2,000 donation from the Air Paris Band with thanks for the purchase of foldable padded chairs for the Air Community Center, and that council formally accepts the $1,700 donation from the Air Community Theater with thanks for the purchase of foldable padded chairs for the Air Community Center, and staff be directed to proceed with the purchase in 2025 utilizing the donated funds.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Okay. Next is the report number rec 34/2025, rural park amenities, Roseville Community Center and Branchton Park. Any questions from the public? Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councilor Osner?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Tilly, that rec report number 34/2025 be received. And the council will adopt the park design concepts as presented in this report for Roseville Park and Branchton Park. And that the 10-year capital forecast 26 to 35 identify the detailed design work associated with both parks to be completed in 2027, with the construction phase associated with both parks to be undertaken in 2028.
All those in favor? Thank you. And next is report number PW 19/2025, ACC exterior renovation construction manager proposal approval. Any members of Problem. Councillors, any questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please, Councillor Tilly?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Williams, that PW report number 19-2025 be received and that council adopt a construction management form of undertaking for the major exterior rehabilitation project of the Air Community Center, ACC, when a future request for proposal document is submitted to the open market to bid on the completion of this project.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Report number 11.2.5, PIN 2025 financial update, September 30th, 2025. Any questions from the public? Seeing none, any questions from members of council? Seeing none, Councillor Williams, can I have the motion, please?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Oster, that FIN report number 18-2025 be received for the purposes of information.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Report number FIN 19-2025 pre-budget approval, fiscal year 2026, long lead and or price sensitive capital projects. Any members of the public? Any members of council have any comments? Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to, I guess, CEO McNeely. I noticed on this that we have for an acquisition of 2 half-ton hybrid crew cab pickup trucks. Replacing era 2017s. My question is that are we replacing it too soon? Question number one, why we're replacing 2017s? That doesn't seem like we would have that many miles or the truck would be in that bad a condition at 2017. And number two is how much the fit up is for the truck, because each vehicle is listed at $88,000 because it's a hybrid. And I'm wondering, it seems like the hybrids are at a high cost right now for some reason, because an equivalent truck without hybrids is about 60,000. I'm just wondering, like in the lifespan of the truck, would we be making up that extra $28,000, let's say, for example?
CEO McNeil.
So Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Oster. I guess there's a series of questions there. So 2 of the 3 vehicles, yes, are replacement of existing rolling stock that were purchased in year 2017. Consistent with the fleet strategy and what's in our capital forecast, we did earmark a 9-year replacement schedule for vehicles. It is not a definitive replacement time. We do look at other things in terms of increased costs for maintenance, damage to vehicles, and the repairs, and or whether or not the vehicles continue to meet what our expectations are in terms of the next 9 or 10-year period. These 2 vehicles were deemed to be appropriate for scheduled replacement and are being recommended accordingly. As relates to the hybrid, you are very much correct. There is a premium to have lower emission vehicles, and all of the items that we purchased that have been targeted to reduce emissions, we have been paying a premium for. And you're quite correct, we're paying about a $20,000 premium to go for the hybrid versus a traditional internal combustion motor vehicle. So it's not the fit up, it is the technology of the motor and the drive system.
Councillor Austin.
So in that case, I would be in favor of reducing it from a hybrid to a standard pickup truck. I think that's a huge difference. That's between the 2 trucks. That's over $40,000. It could be $50,000. I'm not so sure that we're going to see that value in it. I know it's you know, it's good to look like we're green. I understand that. But you know, these days and age, you know, I think we got to start looking at some ways to maybe trim things a little bit. but still be realistic about it. Not to say we don't need it. We do need it, but maybe we don't need the Cadillac right now. Maybe we can go with a more of a commoner vehicle.
Councillor Tilly.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to add something to a brand new owner of a brand new truck with the hybrid in it. And that they went from having a gas mileage of less than 600, more like 500 kilometers per tank. Up to they're getting over 1,100 kilometers per tank now. The hybrid makes such a big difference in it because it has the electric motor in there. Now, this is information I just received on Saturday, and that will be a big cost savings for gas. Now, I haven't extrapolated. I'm not sure if that is sufficient enough to cover the cost of that. But even then, if it's even close or pretty close, then there's the chance that even the resale of it eventually would bring that cost up because that does have a better resale. So I'm not saying you're wrong, Councillor Osner. What I'm saying is I just haven't done the numbers to agree or disagree. Maybe staff has an explanation as to how that possibly could work to our favor in finances.
CEO McNally.
So, Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Tilly. Councillor Tilly is correct. We do get much better fuel efficiency, especially given the number of the vehicles are using short trip. And or there's an idling component that they're staged. If they're either offloading or onloading equipment. We do have some current hybrid vehicles in our fleet. And if I look at before and after, generally the same driving pattern or activity or frequency of trip, we have seen a reduction in fuel consumption. Whether over those periods of years it equates to the approximate variance of 20,000, I don't know, because it's highly volatile based on where the price of fuel is at any point in time. And obviously, the more expensive fuel is, the reduction in consumption will pay an earlier dividend. Okay. So it's difficult to say you get a payback after 5 years or 7 years or whatever the case is because of the price, the volatility of fuel. The genesis of why we went with hybrid is because council committed us to the sustainable long-term objectives of reducing our GHG emissions. Our number one generator of CO2 emissions is our buildings. Our second, between facilities and fleet, that represents almost 95% of our carbon emissions that we as a corporation generate through our day-to-day activities. And so the hybrid fleet, we were not comfortable with going to a full plug-in electric. Just because of reliability of the vehicles and endurance, especially if we have a lugging or a heavy pull component attributed to a task. So the hybrid was the compromise, and as I said, we have had some success with our hybrid fleet, and we have not seen a drop in performance or reliability. We have not witnessed an increase of maintenance to the vehicles, but we have seen a reduction in terms of fueling because of the ability for it to recharge as it's driven, and where we just witnessed most of our savings is when the vehicle's traveling less than 50 kilometers an hour. And the vehicle obviously is idling and it's not being driven at that moment and automatically turns over to electric. So, it's a tension between dollars spent on front capital. There is a marginal reduction annually on fuel consumption. But the primary motivator was the direction that we have the council embrace the sustainable long-term region and our corporate objectives of lowering our emissions of CO2. And we've incurred the same kind of expense in terms of some of our new retrofits or new builds for our buildings. We've gone paid a premium with going away from carbon sourced energy to heat or cool our buildings.
Councillor Austin.
Yeah. That's true. However, it gets to a point, I think that you really start looking at it when the price starts to get ridiculously separated. You start to look at it. According to Ford's website, the hybrid system gets versus the 2.7 V6 gets 1 mile per gallon better in mileage. According to the against the V8, it gets about 8 to 9 miles, but to the EcoBoost V6, it gets 1 mile per gallon better. If like just as a comparison on Ford side. So yeah, you know, I think, and again, I don't know much about the hybrids. What about the maintenance? Is the hybrid maintenance higher? Are there more things that can go wrong with it because it's a dual system? I know the hybrid only really kicks in at lower speeds up to what, 30 miles an hour or something like that, or 50 kilometers an hour. So yeah, you know, and again, and then when the trucks are pulling trailers and stuff like that, I think that the motor kicks in a little sooner. So I mean, it's food for thought. I mean, I think that 88,000 versus a listed price at 60. It's just food for thought. I'm just putting it out there because that's a big difference now. Yeah, I don't recall it being that large of a difference, but when I looked at it at $88,000, that is a lot for a pickup truck.
Councillor Williams and Councillor Tilly.
So thank you, Madam Mayor. I share your concerns about this, Councillor Oster, and I do wonder whether or not it makes sense for us to just purchase these as regular pickup trucks, especially given the economic situation that we're heading in towards and we're in right now, and everybody's really pinching pennies, and maybe that's what we need to consider here.
Councillor Tilly.
Thank you. Just looking for clarification through regard to CAO. Is they, with these work trucks have to be V8s because of the fact that the towing capacity or any work that they're doing, or are these more drive around, throw things in the back kind of trucks?
So Madam Mayor, all of the half tons are V6. We only have V8s for the 3/4 ton pickup truck because it, by its rated capacity, can carry heavier weights. It is a V8. But it's the 3/4 ton pickup, which we're not talking about tonight, and our 1 ton trucks. Once again, because of the nature of the work that they would use, they're V8s. We scale, for lack of a better term, size and output of the trucks based on the nature of what the dominance would be in terms of day-to-day activities. So any of our half-ton trucks, we made a conscious decision about 9 years ago to go down to the V6. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we went to the hybrid for those half tons or our bin type vehicles for building a bio, because of council's direction related to reducing our carbon footprint and the embracing of the sustainable water in the region objectives.
If I may, is this under capital?
So Madam Mayor, these purchases that we're talking about, yes, they are a capital acquisition to purchase the replacement vehicles.
So the funds already exist? There would be no taxation to cover this? No.
The entire capital commitments are funded from reserves. So the order of magnitude, council wishes to move away from hybrid vehicles to traditional internal combustion motors would be quite significant. These are 2 vehicles in a fleet. we probably have 9 vehicles. That under normal life cycle changeout would go from internal combustion. To hybrid when it comes time to replace those vehicles. So the dollar expense. Is quite significant if you look at. Our 10-year capital forecast.
Councillor Austin.
Through you to CEO McNeely. So. What do we have the capability? Or what would we need to have the capability? If we said we need 2 pickup trucks. And if there was a dealership in the region. That had 2 or more of these pickup trucks sitting in their lot. What would we, is it possible to forego the tendering process and approach the dealership? And ask for a price on 2 vehicles? I mean, that's comparative shopping, that's not doing anything. Because I'm sure if you go to one dealership. And say, hey, you've got 2 white F-150s, what I need sitting right here. Like any one of us would do in our normal life, like if we had. I don't know who from staff we could get to do that.
CEO McNeely.
So there's really 2 different questions there. I need to know what kind of vehicle we buy. Is it an internal combustion motor, V6, or is it a hybrid V6? That's my first question, because when we go, I don't care whether it's comparative shopping, or kicking tires for vehicles that are in the lot, or we go through Canoe, or we go through a bid process. We need to have the specifications so that each party is quoting on the exact same specifications for the truck, because that creates your equitable playing field. We are agnostic as it relates to brand. We are looking at, can you provide the vehicle in a timely manner? Can you meet our specifications? And then it's the competitive price based on alignment with meeting the specifications and obviously a timely delivery of the vehicle. So my first question is, where does council wish to be in terms of hybrid versus internal combustion motor? If council gives us the flexibility to work outside the procurement bylaw, we can kick tires. We'll send just an email to 3 or 4 dealerships, say, here's the vehicles, here's the specifications. What can you do?
Councillor Austin and Councillor Tilley.
Okay, but let's say we target a certain dealership that according to their site hypothetically has the 2 vehicles sitting on their lot. And you were to go, or somebody was to go to the dealership and say, I want those 2 pickup trucks, what is the best price you can give me? Does it have to go out to multiple, that's what I'm saying. It's either a tendering process and you send it out to everybody that wants to bid on the tender, or is there a way of saying, we know where those trucks are, those fit whatever we decide we want to purchase, and the dealership is in the region, so therefore we're just going to go there and see what they give us. Is that kosher or not?
I love this type of discussion. CEO McNeely, it's your turn at the bat.
Madam Mayor, through Councillor Austin. It is my comfort to make sure everyone has an equitable opportunity to bid on a vehicle, to actually have a structured thing. So it can be either informal or formal, but we would give area dealerships, regardless of their brand, the ability to inform. And why I'm saying that is because you have agglomerations now. And we'll just use Ford as an example. They have, that one owner might have 4 or 5 sites where they have access to vehicles. May not necessarily be on their Waterloo address. It could be at their Guelph address or their Woodstock address, as an example. But they have access to a vehicle inventory that meets our specifications. So if council wishes to go with informal, we would basically canvass a variety of dealerships. Here's what we're looking for in terms of our vehicle specifications, the number of vehicles. What can you do in terms of price? And delivery schedule. And then we've got something that's consistent. And it's transparent. But council can then be satisfied that we didn't pigeonhole a certain type of vehicle. We gave everyone an opportunity to bid on.
That's the last thing. And then Council Tim.
Okay, so, and if that were the case, and if council was to decide to do that. It's a good exercise on thinking outside of the normal procedural box right now, because I've always thought when I've seen some of these tenders and these prices come back, it's like, you know, I get the feeling like they're putting tenders out going, well, this is taxpayers' money, this is government, they don't care. They'll just pay what as long as we're all within the same, you know, ballpark range. Whereas if I went in as consumer, and I've done this a million times, more times than Heidi cares to remember, I could get a much better deal because they're not dealing with taxpayers or government, because they feel like nobody takes the time to really care to push the envelope. They just, okay, there's the tender, it's the lowest one, let's go. But if it doesn't work, if this doesn't work, we can always go to tender.
Christina Box.
Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Oster. One thing to consider is that through our procurement deals, there are government fleet discounts that we have access to when we put through these tender processes. And those aren't discounts that are available for just anyone who walks in off the street at times. Now, having said that, during the supply chain challenges, vehicles were really, really hard to come by. And if you didn't take it at the price they were offering, it's okay, there was 10 people behind you who wanted it. So that was something we had seen in some more recent procurement. However, it seems to have more stabilized now with the availability.
Thanks for telling us next. Can I have Councillor Tim?
Like, can I just ask the rest of council, are we willing to accept the fact, because of the financial hardships potentially that we're dealing with currently, that we would consider a carbon producing vehicle for this intern decision process, or are we sticking with the hybrid? Like that's, I mean, this is kind of it's a farce if we choose to not do that. So, I mean, not to say, and I was a car salesman for 3 years and I did fleet sales.
Great.
I did fleet sales, and what Christina said was absolutely correct. You cannot get a better price than fleet pricing. That tender process is a good one for that process. But thank you. I take that as a compliment. I was 18 when I did that. Thanks, I appreciate that. But if that is the case, if we are willing to go to the fuel, strictly fuel only vehicle, then we can make that decision. If not, if we're sticking with the hybrids, then I guess it's a yeah.
And I'm torn between, you know, saving the 80,000, or trying to stay with that commitment. Knowing it was in the capital forecast and reserves, I'm comfortable that it's not gonna impact the tax bill because it already has. So it's already done, so the money's there. Oh, I see that. It's the only thing he's gonna say, what?
So if council moves away from hybrid vehicles,
They're talking the whole.
then I'm looking across the 10-year capital forecast, and as I indicated, in time, as we change out some of our current internal combustion motors and move to a hybrid, it has significant implications across the 10-year capital forecast, which means you may not have to put as much money away each year into reserves for rolling stock. So it has an impact in that you're not only saving saving dollars in the immediacy with the purchase in this calendar year, because you're drawing less out of the reserves. But then I remodel the 10-year capital forecast for all those light duty vehicles. And that's now multiplied across the small vehicle fleet.
I personally am not in favor of doing this anymore. I think we have to remain responsible to our carbon emissions, so I would say this would, for me, be a one-off. Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How many times have we said that this 10-year capital forecast is a fluid document? Things change. Economies change, economics change, demand changes, supply changes. We've got to move with the changes. That's my personal opinion. We have to move with the changes. And if we come into, there's numerous times we've had discussions about how money's getting tight with certain things, and we need to shove, you know, we need to move things here and move things, juggle with money. You know, like if it's $10,000, it's $10,000. You can make that money up. That's a big difference. Like $40,000-$50,000 between two trucks is a big difference. That's money that can be used for other projects. But there's nothing saying that now we have to get away completely from all hybrid just because we're making a decision on 2 pickup trucks. I don't understand how that needs to all of a sudden throw the hybrid theory out of the window. But if hybrids get more affordable in a year or two, then the next purchase, by all means, go with hybrid. But I'm just thinking, if you're looking in the now, it's a big difference.
Councillor Ted.
It's just regarding, exact same line, but with a bit more of a technical aspect to it. If there's only 1 mile per gallon difference with the hybrid versus the smaller V6 engine, is it really making that much of a difference? And does it make sense as a temporary decision to save some money? So that it's kind of running along with what you're saying. So I'm just gonna shut up now.
Councillor Rowan and then Councillor Williams? No, just Councillor Williams.
I agree with Councillor Rosser on this one. I think the initial rush to go to a hybrid vehicle or go to an EV like I have was because it's going to help with carbon emissions, but they never really look at the cost of the vehicle from the very beginning, getting those batteries and what it costs to mine all those minerals for those batteries, and then what it costs to retire that battery. When you look at the overall lifespan of the vehicle, you're really not gaining that much in terms of carbon, because battery vehicle is a lot more expensive, has a lot more implications on the environment than they initially realized. So I think now with the knowledge that we have now, I think I'm pretty confident in saying that EVs and hybrids really are not all they're cracked up to be. And if you're really not getting the fuel savings that we thought we're getting, or if you're getting some fuel savings, but it doesn't justify the additional cost for the hybrid, then I think we should seriously look at just discarding this policy. I don't think it's really working in our favor. I don't really think it's truly, if we're going to be truly honest, it's not really a carbon neutral type vehicle. So I think we have to be realistic and say, we need to save the taxpayers some money, and we should just go with these 3 pickup trucks and just go with regular good old V6 pickup trucks. That's what I think.
And so Austin, for clarification, you said just for this one, you didn't say to get rid of the policy, is that correct?
No, I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I'm just, this is a report that has come to us for these particular vehicles. All I'm saying in this particular case is there is a huge difference between hybrid and V6. And I think that if one purchase like this can save, 20-something odd $1,000 a truck, it's not pocket change. That's something you need to think about.
So would you propose a motion, Councillor Austin?
Mm-hmm.
So, Ms. Neely, would you suggest how this motion would be worded?
So, Madam Mayor, what I was going to suggest, just for simplicity, with the long resolution as it's currently crafted, just strike out the word hybrid.
And the price.
Well, we didn't spend a price here.
That is so easy.
So we just said, the half-ton crew cab, just cross out the word hybrid, and this is pickup truck.
Yeah.
And please put your initials beside it and then that really simplifies it and we will look for the fixed maternal combustion.
Cross off first.
No, we're not crossing out the football.
Oh. Jesus.
Sorry.
You're gonna come on a visit me someday. Again.
Actually, so we're just gonna be with Councilor Overman and, yeah, we're just getting rid of. Yeah, we're just getting rid of high policy. I did put it off.
What the heck?
Councilor Overman, you wanna read that off and cut off high. The second. No, it's, I thought the second page here is the same thing.
So you don't need initials.
No, you don't even initially.
Still a three, is dead.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Wilms that FIN report number 19-2025 be received. And that council, notwithstanding the annual budget approval process, the following 2026 capital projects as indicated in the report be pre-approved to expedite the tendering and request for proposal process. A, fleet. Leisure Community Services, half-ton crew cab pickup truck, Public Works, ×2, half-ton crew cab pickup trucks. B, equipment, study software, Public Works 2026 OSIM study. C, infrastructure, Public Works, Reedsville Road guardrails, Public Works, Brantwater Road reconstruction, Public Works, Butte Street reconstruction, Public Works, footbridge, road bridge rehabilitation, Public Works, Greenfield Road reconstruction, Public Works, Jenkins Court, SWM pond cleanout. D, facilities, Leisure and Community Services, ACC major exterior rehabilitation. And E, parks, Leisure and Community Services, Hilltop Parkette playground replacement. Leisure and Community Services, Clyde Community Park Improvement Phase 1, and Leisure and Community Services pump track design build, Jim Schmidt Memorial Department.
Sorry, there's a third recommendation.
Wherever.
Right after the contract, it says that upon delivery and commissioning of the.
No, it's not in the motion. Do you want to add it, please?
It was.
It's not. Can you tell, you have a copy of that?
Yes, it's on your agenda package.
Okay.
Oh, so I'm not too sure what happened to.
It's like this.
Can you print full motion, please?
I'm gonna read it, see it.
Do you want to read just the last part of it? And I'll still print it off of you.
That's 3, and that upon delivery and commissioning of the new replacement half-ton, well, it's still says hybrid, half-ton crew cab pickup trucks for both Public Works and Leisure Community Services, that the existing vehicles be deemed surplus, and the staff be authorized to sell or trade in the units through a competitive process, with the net proceeds from the sale be directed to the rolling stock reserve accounts for the respective departments.
Okay. Good night, Eileen. Good night, Eileen. Thanks, Liz. All those in favor? Karen, thank you. Did we remove the second, the hybrid? No, we didn't. No, well, yeah, we both, we didn't remove it. Did you initially please sponsor? All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. It's never one. Okay, next is report number CAO 26/2025, consideration of a township delegations rural Ontario Municipal Association Roma 2026 conference. Any questions from council? Seeing none, Councillor Tilly, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Ossner, that CEO report number 26-2025 be received, and that staff be directed to submit delegation requests with the province government at the 2026 Roman Conference on behalf of the township as follows. Ministry of Natural Resources, consideration of a comprehensive review and engagement on Aggregate Resources Act and Associate Development Review approvals process. 2, Ministry of Natural Resources, consideration of establishing a minimum separation distance between licensed aggregate operations and urban/rural settlement areas. 3, Ministry of Natural Resources, enhanced rehabilitation standards for aggregate sites. 4, Ministry of Natural Resources, license aggregate sites and the need for new licensed sites in the greater Golden Horseshoe area. 5, Ministry of Natural Resources, pilot project for municipal bylaw enforcement to deliver aspects of monitoring and enforcement on licensed aggregate sites. 6, Ministry of Transportation, updates and next steps on Highway 24, for highway, extending between Shaver Boulevard to Footbridge Road. 7, Ministry of Finance, municipal priorities for consideration of 2026-2027 provincial budget. And number 8, Ministry of Finance grant screen for bridge structure rehabilitation renewal.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. No correspondence. Going into close, the motion, please, Councillor Austin.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Williams, the council move into closed session at 8:40 PM pursuant to the Municipal Act section 239A2 to discuss 13.1, presentation and discussion with consultant from Peace and Associates, pay equity and wage compensation review for non-union personnel, labor relations or employee negotiations, Municipal Act section 239(2)D, and 13.2, report number CAO 27-2025, 2026 cost of living adjustment, labor relations or employee negotiations, Municipal Act section 239(2)D.
All those in favor? Yes. Thank you. Can I have the adjournment, please, Councillor Rowan, closed, adjournment closed.
Moved by myself that the council, that council reconvene into open session at 9:09 PM.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Coming out of close, the Chief Administrative Officer and the Township's consultant Pace and Associates have been provided direction from council on a future update for the consultant as it relates to the pay equity and wage compensation study for the non-union personnel will occur at a future closed meeting. Council Tilly, motion please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Roman, that the treasurer, director of corporate service be directed to carry in the 2026 operating budget of 2.1 cost of living adjustment COLA for.
No. Carry on, Council Tilly.
Thank you. All non-union staff, council members and part-time volunteer firefighters effective January 1st, 2026. And that the chief administrative officer be directed to communicate the 2026 cost of living adjustment as presented to the non-union and part-time volunteer firefighters.
I just have to write out this stuff because it's not on the motion. All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Thank you for your patience. First and second reading of the bylaw, Council two.
Moved by myself, second by Council Rowland, that the following bylaws be read a first and second time. 17.1, bylaw number 3601-25 being a bylaw to amend traffic and parking bylaw number 2559-13 to account for provisions of electric vehicle charging stations, restrict parking stalls. 17.2, bylaw number 3602-25 being a bylaw to defer the proceedings of council on November 10th, 2025.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Council Austin, third reading of the bylaws, please.
Moved by myself, second by Council Rowland, that bylaw number 3601-25 and 3602-25 be read a third and final time, be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And Council Williams, the adjournment, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Ossner, that various business before this council meeting has been completed at 9:13 p.m. and be resolved, this meeting adjourned.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you.